Welcome to the Scottish Rite Journal podcast, an audio presentation of the Scottish Rite Journal, brought to you by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the World. This week's article is Revisiting the New Age, a brief history of the Supreme Council's first literary magazine by Chris Ruley, 32nd Degree, and Mark Dreisenstock, 32nd Degree, KCCH, and comes from the September-October 2021 issue of the Scottish Rite Journal. In the summer of 2020, Supreme Council librarian Larissa Watkins and Chris Ruley, District of Columbia Grand Lodge and Washington Valley historian, embarked on one of the library's most ambitious projects to date, digitizing the New Age magazine, as the Scottish Rite Journal was known until 1989. First published in June 1904, the New Age began as a monthly literary magazine and general Masonic digest. Early editions featured short stories, poetry, Masonic articles, and reviews of art. Near the back of each issue, notable Masonic activities and milestones were featured from across the country. These early issues featured stylized front covers depicting zodiac themes in Art Nouveau style. For the first 3 years, 9 members, representing both the northern and southern jurisdictions, composed the New Age Board of Directors. Differences in visions between the two groups resulted in the magazine's first restructuring at the end of 1907, when it transferred completely to the southern jurisdiction. Paradoxically, magazine production moved from Washington, D.C. to New York City the following year, even though it remained an official organ of the Supreme Council, Southern Jurisdiction. To increase readership, Grand Commander James Richardson offered the publication gratis during the first year to all members within the Southern Jurisdiction. An annual subscription to the New Age cost $1.50. By 1905, elements appeared in the New Age which anticipated our current Scottish Rite Journal. Columnist Warren Harper, for example, detailed his global travels in a series similar to today's Masonic Traveler feature. Harper wrote in 1905 of his travels to the Jungfrau Mountain summit of the Swiss Alps. He praised the modern Aladdins, the engineers who have again rubbed their lamps, and behold, the wonderful electric road ascending the grisly veteran of the Oberlin Alps has achieved another height. George F. Moore, SGIG in Alabama and author of the Knight Commander of the Court of Honor Ritual, served as the magazine's first managing editor. Moore poured his heart and personal resources into the project. When production moved to New York City in 1908, Moore spent $3,000, about $85,000 today, of his own salary to acquire a typeset machine and contract a printer. Moore often defended the magazine's high-concept approach, especially against those who thought the publication veered too far away from the ritual and directly Masonic themes. Moore believed this expansive approach was rooted in the Scottish Rite's educational mission, saying, "We know that the ordinary magazine is intended for entertainment and not to cultivate the virtue of thinking, but the resolution to which we have referred states explicitly that this magazine is devoted to the education of all the people in the highest sense." Richardson appointed Moore as Lieutenant Grand Commander in 1912. He served in this role for 2 years until 1914, when Richardson died, and he became the Grand Commander. While Moore officially resigned as managing editor in 1912, he continued to oversee the publication until a suitable successor had been identified. In 1914, the New Age returned to Washington, D.C., and Moore experimented with more policy and opinion-oriented pieces. The dramatic shift was concisely encapsulated in its new 1915 subtitle, which declared the New Age a monthly publication devoted to Freemasonry and its relation to present-day problems. Science features began to appear, such as the March 1912 Great Eyes of Science article discussed elsewhere in this issue. The look of the magazine cover also changed to resemble the yellow-bordered National Geographic, but with a different Masonic temple location featured every month. Now Grand Commander, Moore felt less political pressure as he began to push the publication's boundaries. The New Age's second wave featured examinations on the benefits of early education, Freemasonry, and religion, the American government, trials and tribulations of foreign Masonic jurisdictions and their governments, and separation of church and state. An example of the desire for social reform is found in Leo Tolstoy, the 13th Apostle, June 1918, in which author Henry Evans recounts the famous Russian writer's life and the anti-war movement, as well as compares his struggles to contemporary world events. Reforms will come slowly, wrote Evans. Human nature will have to change mightily ere the Tolstoyan era sets in. But many things he taught are capable of being realized at once if mankind will only experience a change of heart. Throughout Moore's stewardship, the publication adopted a Masonic activist tone. He combined Masonic symbolism with practical teachings to enact positive social change and perhaps political reform. Masonic activism became organizational policy in 1920, when the Supreme Council publicly supported developing a federal Department of Education, something which did not occur until decades later, as well as use of an external news service. Moore's approach led to some dissatisfaction, however, and in 1921 he resigned as Grand Commander. Executive Secretary John Cowles became his successor. The magazine began alternating between articles with a metaphysical Masonic focus and pieces dealing with more on-the-ground topics, a pattern which continues in the Scottish Rite Journal of today. Under Cowles, the New Age expanded from 48 to 64 pages. He added 2 recurring columns. The first, Journeyings, was a diary-style piece documenting his travels and activities as Grand Commander. Cowles was surprised but pleased to see that the whimsical style and informal anecdotes of Journeyings were well received by readers. Positions Wanted, a job-seeking board, proved equally as popular and ran some 30 years into the late 1950s. During his editorial tenure, Cowles and the New Age Board ran pieces strongly critical of Mussolini, Hitler, and other fascist belligerents prior to America's entry into the Second World War. He was well aware of anti-Masonic sentiment by totalitarian regimes in Europe and expressed these concerns in print. The German and Austrian governments subsequently banned the New Age. Cowles also lobbied Allied European Supreme Councils to form Masonic relief groups. Immediately after World War II, Masonic membership reached new heights. Luther A. Smith succeeded Grand Commanders John Cowles and Thomas J. Harkins, who resigned in 1952 and 1955, respectively. Smith began his first full year with a completely redesigned New Age. Beginning in January 1956, the magazine shrank to a pocket size of 5 by 7 inches, mirroring contemporary magazines such as Reader's Digest and TV Guide, yet eschewing the use of visual images. Positions Wanted was dropped, and in 1957 the publication stopped featuring Masonic halls on its covers. During the boom decade of the 1950s, the magazine celebrated, in the words of writer Malcolm W. Bailey, our blessed country at the height of its material power, enjoying greater material blessings than at any previous time in its history. Yet the magazine was much different from the popular Reader's Digest in that it also could boast of philosophical articles on the philosophers Baruch Spinoza. Spinoza earnestly asserts the love of God in a pantheistic manner, explained Rabbi H. Geffen in November 1954, and John Locke, philosopher of freedom, in an article by Edgar F. Smith, August 1955. The political philosophy of Locke, Brother Smith noted, is based on his concept of natural law, and he believed natural law to be the law of God. By 1959, the New Age grew to a circulation of 473,000. The same year, the Supreme Council held a special session with the editorial board to consider ways to further improve circulation and outreach. Among the proposals considered was an increase in the subscription fee, which had remained $1.50 since its inception, and dropping the word copyright from the publication to encourage subscribers to share New Age content. The measures worked, and New Age circulation soon surpassed 640,000. In the Henry Clausen Commander era and later, themed issues were dedicated to support various Masonic and civic causes, including public schools, August 1959, DeMolay, June 1969, America's bicentennial anniversary, and the American flag in June 1989. The last issue was so popular that an additional 227,000 copies were reprinted. Patriotic themes abounded, including portraits of American founding fathers such as Samuel Adams, a free thinker but not known to be a Mason, and articles such as July 4th, Remember the Generations of the Future, in which Raymond W. Miller wrote, the 4th of July is a ready-made, red-letter day to think about the personal and general influence of our lives in passing on a civilization to the ongoing ages. July 1980. In his May 1986 article, What Freemasonry Means to Me, the Reverend Dr. and Brother Norman Vincent Peale wrote directly to Masons that Freemasonry, with its philanthropy and high ideals, gives another dimension to living. The magazine during this time sought to reassure its readers of the enduring traditional values of patriotism and faith. In the period with C. Frederick Kleinknecht as Grand Commander, which included the last decade of the magazine under the New Age moniker, there was also an enormous focus on the Right Care Scottish Rite Childhood Language Program and its clinics. The July 1988 cover featured scenes from a childhood language disorders clinic, with the issue discussing the Scottish Rite's efforts to address childhood learning disorders. In 1989, due to confusion with the New Age movement and its associated publication, the New Age Journal, our venerable Masonic magazine changed its title to the Scottish Rite Journal. A full generation and nearly a quarter century have passed, and thanks to the digitization efforts of Chris Rulli and Larissa Watkins, the complete Masonic New Age, from 1904 through 1989, will soon be accessible for future scholars. Stay tuned for more information on this exciting project as we uncover the lost treasures of the New Age. Like and share this article, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you wish to comment, please leave one, and as a reminder, hit the notifications bell. Any accompanying photographs or citations for this article can be found in the corresponding print edition. The Scottish Rite Journal is published by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the World. Mark Dreisenstock, 32nd degree, KCCH, Managing Editor. I'm your host, Matt Bowers.